Right. Quentin said I'm going to talk about the journey, and that is what I'm going to do. If you're expecting a lot of deep dive screens of Contentsquare, you're not getting there. Enough other people have done this already, and I'm not a power user myself. I'm barely a user. But I am going to take you through how we built JBL from being an audio engineering company to a much more branded experience company, and how in the end we realized we needed something like Contentsquare to help us do that. So, beyond the card, building a brand-first D2C channel, backed by data. What am I going to take you through? Can we blow up the slide, please? I'm going to give a little bit of introduction. Then we're going to talk about our transition to this, from this audio engineering company to a consumer-first company. We have a project called Facelift, JBL Facelift, which has been taking a lot of my time in the past couple of years and has been critical to our success. We'll talk about data-driven decision-making and our close. Now, first of all, introduction. You saw in the intro, it actually said Harman / JBL, because not many people actually know Harman. And that's logical, because Harman isn't a brand, it's an umbrella of brands. We've got multiple divisions. We've got a lifestyle division, which is the consumer division, and we've got an automotive division. It's a pretty big company. We have more than 10 billion in turnover. And a fair portion of that is in the consumer products. And it's pretty much impossible for any of you to not have experienced our brands. If you've been to a stadium, if you've been to a concert, if you've been to the cinema, if you've been in a Mercedes car, if you've been to the beach, if you've seen people in the train, our products are really everywhere. And JBL is the most well-known brand of that. But we also have other brands like AKG and Mark Levinson and Harman Kardon. We have a lot of pro brands, and just last year we acquired another company, Sound United, adding even more brands to the mix. And a lot of times these brands actually work together with our automotive division, because you can get a car with our branded audio in it, which is an enabler for the consumer, and vice versa. My own role with Harman started in 2009. I actually joined this company that was looking for an online marketing manager and was doing purely distribution. So they were selling to stores, to distributors all over the world, and the company actually wasn't doing that great at the time, because there was a big transition happening from hi-fi and stereo and wired stuff to this thing with Apple and streaming and whatnot. By now, I'm a senior director, global e-commerce and customer experience, and we manage 75 e-com sites, and out of a total of 150 sites. And it depends how we count. If we also count our support sites, microsites, we probably even double that. We can't do that alone. We work with many regions, and the way that we have set this up is that we've globally provided the direction and the strategy and the tools and the vendors, and that we heavily depend on our regions to do the activation and to actually do the selling. And the D2C business varies by region. It's sometimes a single-digit number, it's sometimes a double-digit number, and it's important to realize that for us, it's not we are not a direct-only business. We heavily depend on retail partners and visibility, and that's not going to change. So for us, the website is more about brand control and the margin and the data that we can get, but it will never replace our retail partners. So I mentioned from audio engineering to consumer first. What do I mean with that? Well, when I joined, that thing on the right-hand side was actually what JBL was standing for. Speakers, passive speakers with 2 wires that go into your stereo, really good quality, well known, sometimes 5K, sometimes 500 euro, sometimes 50K. And we still have that as a small part of the business. But the whole world was changing. Nobody was buying stereos. Record players were going out. Of course, they're now back in again. Stereos were getting out. Apple was coming with iPods and with phones that could, with the iPhone that could do stuff. So Harman had a really, challenge to change, because if we weren't changing, we would have become a niche brand. And we had some efforts with portable speakers, with headphones, and they weren't initially that successful. And part of it was because JBL wasn't even our top brand. Harman Kardon was a much better known brand in part of the world. And JBL just had the association with those speakers. But then things changed. The company really made an effort to become a consumer-first brand. And what we did is, a big change was that we brought in a CMO that actually came from Pepsi, Ralph Santana. And Pepsi never says on the sides, oh, here's our cool drink, it has 99.9% water, it has this many sugar. They're only doing experiences. You never talk about the product, it's how you enjoy the product. And he knew that very well. And he made us brand-led. And he elevated JBL as a global lifestyle brand. We got ambassadors, we got things like JBL Fest, where we had like influencers flown to Vegas for a 3-day party where they would report about it. And he also positioned JBL very sharply as the main brand. And we went from B2B and product-led and fragmented into this consumer part. And for a lot of people in Harman at the time, that was really difficult, because telling an engineer that 0.001 total harmonic distortion isn't important, and that you need to have somebody that people like, and that, yes, isn't as good on that level, but still sufficient, that's a big change. And part of that was that we focused on millennials at the time. We got into sports partnerships. We got into music and creator programs. We did gaming and lifestyle categories. We came with quantum gaming headsets and stuff. We went to, everything associated with that. We drove global consistency in the brand, and we became pretty recognizable. And by now, we are like number 1 or 2 in every main market for our main categories of like headphones, portable speakers, and party boxes. Party boxes in EMEA or globally, we are like absolute market leader, sometimes having market shares of like 70, 80%. It's incredible. The problem with these millennials though is they get older, and they get a partner, they get a dog, a house in the suburbs, they move out of Amsterdam, and they don't go to festivals anymore. So if you align to that demographic, you automatically go with them. But there has to be a time where you've got to go one level below again, because otherwise you'll become a Nokia or a BlackBerry. You'll become irrelevant because their buying patterns changed. So we have realigned on Gen Z and the uninhibited. And it's really cool to me that I am at a company that's big enough to be able to make such a strategic change and to have the whole company follow through. Like literally everybody had to do training on Gen Z, understand them. For me, that was easy. I could pass everything with flying marks just by filling in what I would thought that my daughter would do. And that was correct all the time. And it changed our style of communication. They are much more into uniqueness, their interests are different, and we did all this training. So what's the impact? Well, we got here from these millennials, and they wanted just to be successful. and have the same as everybody else or a bit more quality and value and a brand they know. And the artists that belong to that and the ambassadors were things like Maroon 5 and Steph Curry from NBA. And then we're moving to Gen Z, where we need to be much more authentic and unique, and they buy JBL for the style and for the culture and for for creativity, and think not Maroon 5 and Steph Curry, but Bad Bunny and Flojo Johnson. And sometimes there's people that I've never even heard about, so we are more going micro-influencers. Changes everything, even the way we take photographs. Like we are showing the real thing, the real world. We're not touching up photos, no photoshopping. So that also had to apply to the website, and we called that Project Facelift. And why? Well, the site no longer reflected the consumer perceptions of the brand. We needed a brand refresh to begin with. We needed new visuals and everything that was coming out of that Gen Z. And we did come to the conclusion Gen Z is too restricted because you're all not Gen Z, but you should all still buy JBL. So we're calling you the uninhibited. But it is non-conformity. It's you celebrating your uniqueness. And you'll see that in our ads. I mean, we have grannies on scooters with a JBL product in our commercials as well. And not just all the sweet pictures at the pool of successful people, different, unique. We did need to fix a lot of regional inconsistencies, and we also had to deal with an ever-growing assortment of products and new categories. And out of this came a lot of new visuals, a complete new design guide, a brand guide, and what you see there, some people enjoying in the pool. Everything is like much more inclusive, creative, rough at times than what we were. And for Facelift, we did a global redesign of the whole front end, new homepage, new design components, all the regions, 75 sites, and we had to do this in all our templates. Got a whole toolkit for the website, cool stuff, new stuff, working closely together with global marketing. But that was a challenge, because for a long time, the website could grow based on e-commerce. And we incentivized people on how successful they are in selling our products online. Not so much in how successful they are in showing our brand values or building our brand experience online. So we've got marketing that wants to tell this story, and we've got e-com that says, well, that one single thumbnail will do, because any second the page loads longer, it's going to hit our conversion. And we had to find a balance. We wanted to keep growing, but we also need to recognize that we are moving into a more experiential website, and that the site has an important role also in our traffic and sales for tomorrow, and in supporting our retail business. So we had to move away from promotions and the bare minimum into this brand experience. But targets are there, so we still need to keep all the sales and grow them with X% every year as well. So how did we do that? Enter data-driven decision making. We've worked with Contentsquare through our partner Valentic to roll this out. We had completely opposing sites. People would say, never, we are not doing this, we are not rolling this out. And we said, well, you have to. Well, then you've got to cut down our targets because we're not going to make it. So what we did is we defined constraints. We said the load speed cannot go over a certain, what we have today, and the conversion cannot go down. Now, we wanted to base that on data rather than opinion. I've heard that multiple times today. So we're doing A/B tests, we're doing Contentsquare analysis, we're doing user testing, and we're working very closely with global and local teams. I mean, I've got a global team members here, I've got regional team members here in the audience that use this all the time. And we took it from, oh, I think this works better, to, we see this works better, or we see this works similar. Or if we take a hit, we know that we take the hit with a purpose. So we verified all the proposed changes for scroll rate, click rate, bounce rate, conversion, and page speed. And we find the friction. We look at what's the user behavior, how do they navigate the pages, what do they click and ignore. Yes, we got a long homepage, and we got very expensively developed modules, and we saw people weren't even reaching them. That's very valuable insights, because we have to also translate it in 21 languages. It's a lot of resource, a lot of cost. We wanted to visualize the journeys and find conversion issues and see what people engage with and not. Now, our Sally in our global team and members of our regional teams all do these tests and evaluate this, and we're getting reports back. These reports that we get back through Volantic are extensive, 20, 30, 40, 60 pages sometimes. We need an hour to just get them presented to them. But they're very insightful, because it tells us things. Like, if I look there, it probably says A/B test number 194 for PDP version 1. And we tested what would work better, a product image or somebody wearing the product. And you can't really predict that. And we are finding things like, okay, if we do that, we get a lot more clicks on that image. And it does work, but we actually saw less add to cart clicks. And that means we need to analyze further and can't just roll that out. And then we do a deeper dive, like, oh, does this differ by category or by platform? And we see that, hey, for earbuds, it actually works very well on mobile. Does that mean that maybe an earbud is seen more as an accessory? You want to see how it looks on somebody rather than a product. And then we can go and look into that further. So with Contentsquare, we could see and make these conclusions and see where we need to do a further deep dive. And at any time, anything that we have implemented, we know exactly what the impact was. And it doesn't mean we only do winners. Sometimes it's okay if we want to do and achieve something for the brand, and it hits us a tiny fraction, that may be fine, but at least then we know it. And we're funding somewhere else where we can compensate that, right? And this is the way we continue to refine our sites globally, and how we've been growing with double-digit numbers. If I compare when I joined, we are doing more on direct e-commerce now than we did as a whole company when I joined. So what's the next steps? Well, I've heard the word agentic a couple of times today. I was at Shop Talks 3 weeks ago. I only heard agentic. It's gonna affect us. And it's gonna drive a lot more changes to the site. All of these changes will need validation. Not just like, hey, did it make it better for LLMs, but how does it affect our normal website traffic? And there's a continuous program of changes that we will keep rolling out and that we will keep testing. And to me, if I summarize what Contentsquare can do for me, it just takes the discussions away. Like, we have a lot of people with a lot of strong opinions, and they want a lot of things, and I've got 10 regions. This way, we can set the boundaries, and we know that we are moving in the right direction. And sometimes that means one of the regions, is affected a bit. But if the overall is a win, we'll still go, and we can explain that, right? And of course, we try and find things that help everywhere, but we want to stay consistent. So that's it for me. I could talk about this for a lot longer, but I'll be pulled off stage by Quentin, and he's already eagerly standing there. Now, you don't have to believe all this from me. I suggest you just go to jbl.com That will redirect you to JBL NL. And check out some of our cool products and how we change the site. Now, if you drop by the Volantic booth, they can give you a 20% discount code. Should they have run out, find me on LinkedIn and I'll get you one. Yeah?